Levitt towns were the first planned communities in the nation for returning veterans. The first Levitt town was built in Long Island, New York. By 1951, the Levitt brothers had built over 70,000 homes through mass production. Each crew went from house to house doing one job: tile crews, floor crews, and paint crews, which were red and white. They then went forth to build 2 more Levitt towns in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. The homes were simple 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom houses, all identical and priced under $8,000. Between 1950 and 1960, businesses moved to the south and people followed. California's population grew by 50% and other Sunbelt states experienced similar growth. 2 advances in technology emerged to make these large shifts possible. The first advance was the design and construction of massive water projects in the Southwest. These projects consisted of building dams on major rivers, capturing the water in reservoirs, and distributing the water through a system of canals to the fast-growing cities such as Phoenix, Las Vegas, and Los Angeles. The second was the making of home air conditioning. During the war, Americans saved billions of dollars, and once the factories converted from war production to consumer goods, everyone went on a spending spree. This encouraged businesses to expand their production, and by 1955, America was producing almost half of the world's goods. Businesses used 3 kinds of methods to encourage people to keep spending money at the shopping centers. The first method is advertisement. Companies would spend $8 billion a year on advertisements. The second is offering a new way to pay for goods without using your own in-hand cash. And finally, the third method is called planned obsolescence, which means the desire to own something a little newer, a little better, a little sooner than necessary. It was mainly used amongst clothing stores and automobile companies, which looked for ways to make the production seem dated after a certain period of time.
During the war, marriage and birth rates dropped drastically for the fear of what is to come of the future. When the war was over, people began to see a brighter side, and this created what is called the baby boom. Marriage rates and birth rates skyrocketed, and a record of 4.3 million births and 2.3 million marriages have been recorded into the history books. This baby boom boosted sales for diapers and baby foods. Home sales boomed as new young families flocked to the suburbs to start their new lives. Majority of baby boomers grew up in a so-called traditional family, working father and stay-at-home mom. Once the baby boomers grew to school age, California had to build new schools for millions of the new children in the matter of a week, and older schools added temporary buildings to create more classrooms. Other schools ran the classes in shifts, 1 in the morning and 1 in the afternoon. September 4th, 1957. A new car called the Ford Edsel appeared in Ford's showroom around the country. People were coming in record numbers to come see the car, but it wasn't selling. It was the biggest, flashiest, and most luxurious Ford ever to be designed, and everyone pretty much hated it. Some called it an Oldsmobile sucking a lemon, and others called it a Pontiac pushing a toilet seat. After 3 years of the poor sales, Ford gave up on the Edsel. It was rare to have an automobile sale failure since life in the suburbs demanded access to vehicles because most suburbs lacked public transportation. Soon, families noticed that they needed 2 cars instead of 1. Mothers needed cars to go to the supermarket and shopping centers, and children depended on the family car to get to their after-school activities. Cars became more a necessity as it turned into a status symbol or a sign of wealth and prestige. Car manufacturers played on this and encouraged buyers to trade in their old model cars for the new models to keep up with their neighbors. As cars were being depended on by Americans, it also demanded more and better roads. State and federal lawmakers funded highway construction programs for this reason. The most ambitious program was authorized by Congress in 1956 to construct a nationwide highway system. The goal of the system was to connect major cities around the country by a network of superhighways. This idea was first seen during World War II as Germany used it as a way to move troops and weapons easily and quickly. President Eisenhower seen this as an important aid to the nation's defense. By 1960, about 10,000 miles of interstate highway had been constructed with at least 2 lanes in both directions. This created roadside businesses such as gas stations, motels, and restaurants that sprang up all over the interstate. The system also gave people the opportunity to vacation, live, and work wherever they wanted. More technologies advanced to transform everyday life. Antibiotics increased life expectancy and found a vaccine for polio. The vaccine for polio ended the terrible disease that ended in paralysis and death amongst its victims. Peaceful uses for nuclear energy were also found. The most promising was generating electricity. The first nuclear power plant was built in Shippingport, Pennsylvania. Even in the medical field, researchers found that radioactive isotopes could be used in the diagnosis and treatment of disease through the use of X-rays. At the same time, specialists in nuclear medicine began to use radioactive iodine to treat typhoid cancer.